Thought Leaders, a closer look for the curious. So tonight we have Ben, and thanks for joining us, Ben. Ben Bustard, you're a student on the Level A program in Applied Industrial Science. So thanks for joining us tonight, Ben. I know it's been a long day and you're joining us after work.
No worries. Happy to be here.
Good stuff. We also have Rachel is also in attendance. Rachel is the Level 7 coordinator.
Yeah. Hi, Ben. How are you?
Not so bad, Rachel. Nice to meet you.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks again for joining us, Ben. Ben, do you want to tell us about your story and how you ended up, I suppose, on the online course that we're going to talk about?
Yeah. So I started studying with ATU Sligo in 2019 on the general science course. I knew I wanted to study science, but I couldn't really commit to a field. So I thought the general entry would be the best route for me. And then after my first year of study, I went down the route of pharmaceutical science with drug discovery and development. And as part of that course, then in year 3, I done an internship and started that with Abbott Diabetes Care in Donegal Town. Started in batch review and then transferred to microbiology about 3 months in. Really liked microbiology, and a permanent position opened up there. So I accepted that and got a level 7 exit award from the level 8 degree. And then rather than leaving to go back to finish my level 8, I found this course. So discovered I could do the hybrid. So I done both then, kind of keep the career progressing and close out my level 8.
Perfect. We'll just talk about the work placement first, Ben, because this is unusual. So you went out in work placement. It was for a set period of time, but then an opportunity came available and you stayed there. Were there any advantages of going on work placement in the first place, or what do you think the benefits of that were?
Definitely. I think work placement really put everything that we learned in college into practice. Maybe not the methods specifically, but like general good lab practices and documentation practices and all that kind of stuff learned in college was definitely a huge benefit. And then the work placement kind of reinforced that. I know as well, it can make you more attractive to an employer if you're graduating with some sort of experience in industry. So I think they went hand in hand, really.
Ben, work placement on your course is not compulsory. Did you get any feedback from maybe some of your peers as well that haven't gone on work placement, and how do they feel about it now, or what do they think of your progression?
I keep in contact with them. They're happy enough, but I suppose I do have an advantage in the sense that I'll be finishing my level 8 with 2.5 years real industry experience that maybe some of them didn't necessarily get the chance to do.
Perfect. And I suppose as well, Ben, it's probably a different way of studying, the online learning versus what you're more used to in the earlier years when you were on campus. How did you find that transition over to the online?
I actually didn't find it too bad because COVID sort of forced me down that route. So at the end of first year, the pandemic hit, so kind of had to learn the online learning fairly fast. So then I was actually more comfortable, I'd say, doing the online with the level 8 than if I had to go back on campus. But I found it really good. I could manage my time better, so I could prioritize what I needed to at work or college, depending on what I needed to do that week. And you kind of set your own schedule because you know what's expected of you at the start of the semester, so you can kind of plan like that. I think time management is very important with the remote learning, but if you can get that nailed down, it's definitely manageable.
That kind of leads into what I was going to ask you next, and I suppose a lot of the guys tuning into this at a later date will ask the question as well. You're in full-time employment. You work 40 plus hours a week. How that's not the same as being off for COVID and doing your classes online. How do you balance it, or do you find it tough?
I think you definitely need to enjoy what you're doing. I have a real passion for science, and I really wanted to get my level 8. And the applied industrial science definitely was more related to what I would do in industry. The modules like the biocontamination control and everything to do with clean rooms, utilities, facilities, that's all in my day-to-day role. So I find it very enjoyable, and I find I could apply a lot of what I was doing at work to the course. So they kind of linked in very well.
Very good. Would you have any advice for anyone that was thinking of joining this, or any particular students you'd recommend it for?
I'd say definitely if you're in a position where you're comfortable in your company and you don't want to leave in case your position is filled, when you go back to college, definitely consider it. And if you're willing to put in the work for both, I think it's definitely like the best option, because to be in full-time employment and get that experience as well as getting a level 8 degree, it speaks for itself. Like.
And you mentioned there as well, Ben, about the kind of being in full-time employment. There's modules built into this course that have like a workplace-based learning component. So how have you found those modules, or have you found they've helped you in the workplace at all?
I definitely have. I'm very lucky in the sense that I have a manager that's very willing to help. So anytime there was like a project that I could choose myself, I would link in with her and we'd decide something that would benefit the company and myself and my studies. So again, applying what I learned at college to work and vice versa. So killing two birds with one stone, really. But yeah, like the research methods and all of that, it comes into play every day at work. So it's really good to reinforce them skills.
Good stuff. Ben, you're kind of an unusual student in this, in that you were full-time, went out in work placement and decided not to come back. Going back in time, if you could start off at the very beginning, and this isn't related to the course, did you find benefit in physically coming to college for a while, or would you have rathered, I might be more in an apprenticeship model where you would have started in the workplace and stayed in the workplace all the way through? Looking back, what do you think, or do you think there was some benefit to actually physically coming to college?
I definitely think there's a benefit to physically coming to college. That kind of like the foundations in lab practices, especially, like you can be taught that in your company, but every company differs. So I think it's good to have a real solid foundation that was provided in year one. I think all science courses are the same in that aspect, but yeah, no, I definitely think there's a benefit to coming on site. And obviously I would have preferred to come on site throughout my whole studies, just the student life and everything, but didn't work out that way. But no, I'm very happy with how things have gone so far for me.
Very good. Another thing about this as well, how do the modules relate? And I know Rachel talked about this. How do the modules relate to what you do in a day-to-day activity?
So as a microbiologist, I suppose my main role is environmental monitoring and making sure that the clean rooms are performing within specification, adherent to regulatory standards and ISO standards. Like some of the modules really go into depth on those standards, the exact ones that I'll be working with, and environmental monitoring plans. So I think it really, like, there's words thrown around a lot in industry, and they were really explained, or the principles were really explained rather, in the modules then. So like I feel like I definitely have a better understanding of why I do what I do.
And I suppose it's kind of an intense year as well, because you're working full time, but then you have all these extra modules and study that you're doing. So I suppose, what advice would you have for someone else that was starting onto the course in terms of managing their time and I suppose undertaking the course in general?
I think definitely make sure that you are 100% committed to doing it. And once you've made that decision, time management is going to be your best friend. Like, you really do need to make yourself a schedule and stick to it, because with the 40 plus hours a week, and then college is, a couple hours every evening on top of that, plus your projects or whatever at the weekend, it's definitely important to manage your time so that you can prioritize both.
And have you found, I suppose, a benefit to having this course then in work and, going down the line in terms of progression and everything? Have you found the course might be useful in that regard?
Definitely, yeah. The modules, like there's validation, calibration, auditing, all that's covered in the course, and it's not something I would ever have had an interest in at work because I was happy in microbiology. But in terms of progression, I definitely would consider those career options more seriously now that I've sort of got a taste for it by doing the course.
Good stuff. Ben, one of the questions that students are going to have as well is in relation to the fees. We don't get into specific details in relation to what the company does, but how were you financed, or how did it work out for you?
So for me, it was Abbott funded it, but I would pay my installment and claim it back then through our portal. So, and it was 60%, so 2/3.
Very good. So you paid up front, then Abbott would sponsor you or make up 60% of it. And it kind of seems like a fair deal, to be honest.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, both
Definitely.
people are taking some responsibility for it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
In terms of progression from this, do you intend to go further once this, now it's a bit early because you haven't finished the course, but do you intend to go further with your education?
I think I do down the line. Yeah, I'm only 22, but I feel like I've been in education for a long time, so I might take a break for a few years. But I think one thing this course does provide you with that maybe I didn't consider before is that, like, I will be 22 with my level 8 and my 2.5 years industry experience. So if I want to progress my career or further studies, or if I want to take a couple of years out and travel, I can still come back and I'll have a good foundation set for like whatever I want to do, really.
I think that sums it up. I think when you look at that, Ben, like you're 22, have 2.5 years industrial experience, and you'll have your degree. How many other 22-year-olds do you think are in the country in a similar situation?
Yeah.
Not being smart, but
yeah, it's nice. Now it worked out well for me, in fairness.
very good. Going off script. It's supposed to be relaxed anyway.
No, I suppose, was there anything else, I suppose, any other benefits of the course that you wanted to maybe share that we haven't covered or we haven't asked that you think people might be interested in?
I suppose just highlighting the flexibility of it. Like the lectures are live, but they're also recorded, so they kind of work for the student. You know, if you're at work and you can't attend a lecture, the recordings are going to be there. And all of the lectures are very accommodating too. Like they get back to you as soon as they could with any queries, and they always kind of made it clear they had an open door policy. So definitely felt like I wasn't troubling them with any of my questions or anything like that, which is different to, I suppose, the traditional on campus where you've got your time in the classroom. Which I know the lectures definitely accommodated that very well.
That's great.
Brilliant. Ben, thanks for taking the time out after a busy day at work. You're a student with a bright future ahead of you. I have absolutely no doubt about that. And thanks for taking time to come in. I think that's it from myself and Rachel. And yeah, hopefully you'll inspire the next generation to do the same as you have.
It's perfect. Thanks very much for having me, guys.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Ben. We'll talk to you soon.
Good luck.